ex-Governor Okowa of Delta State in Nigeria allegedly embezzled 1.3 trillion naira belonging to his state. This is huge. We are revisiting this issue again. The Viewers Corner news team is appealing to the people of Nigeria to hold their state governors accountable concerning the economic hardship that they are facing at the moment. Everything should not always be about the federal government of Nigeria. The state governors are part of the problems too. If a governor would have the mind to embezzle about 1.3 trillion naira of state money as alleged, which was given to him to fix his state so that everyone in his state can be comfortable, then how can people from such a state keep on blaming the federal government of Nigeria for the economic hardship in the country? Although the federal government of Nigeria should also be blamed for the hardship in Nigeria, the major part of it should go to the state governors. Just imagine ex-Governor Okowa of Delta State allegedly diverted about 1.3 trillion naira of state money. If this huge sum of money had been invested in Delta State, by now poverty would have been history in that state. Again, we are appealing to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission of Nigeria to follow up this case to a conclusive end, and if ex-Governor Okowa is found guilty, he should be made to be behind bars for a very long period of time for betraying the trust given to him by the people of Delta State, who elected him to lead them at that particular period of time. Professor Charles Soludo, who is the governor of Anambra State in Nigeria, is likely going to be a one-term governor. Professor Charles Soludo of Anambra State promised to build the state and make it better when he took over power. Right now, he has 1 year to complete his first tenure of office, and still there is nothing good to show of what he has done in the state. Flood has taken over some places in Anambra State without Governor Charles Soludo knowing what to do to address such troubling issues. Again, some of those who spoke to our correspondent in Awka, the state capital of Anambra State, revealed that Governor Charles Soludo may likely lose the next governorship election, which is to be held in November 2025. They also said that most of the promises Governor Charles Soludo made to the people of Anambra State were not kept, and as it is now, they may likely vote for a candidate from another political party. However, we are anxiously waiting to hear from those who will contest for the governorship election of Anambra State come November 2025. Ex-Governor David Umahi of Ebonyi State as a Minister of Works in Nigeria is the worst mistake President Bola Tinubu's government has ever made. Billions of naira were budgeted to fix roads in Nigeria under the supervision of ex-Governor David Umahi, who is the Minister of Works in Nigeria, yet no progress report has been recorded, hence the lawmakers at the National Assembly are castigating him. They are accusing him of not performing his duty as expected. We know that ex-Governor David Umahi would not be able to carry out his duty as Works Minister of Nigeria, taking into consideration his activities when he was the governor of Ebonyi State. Mr. David Umahi is a very corrupt man, and when a man who is corrupt is put in a position of authority, the end result would be failure all through. Now hear our point on this issue. If you calculate the amount of money budgeted to fix Nigerian roads and compare it to the number of roads in Nigeria that have been fixed, if there are any, then Nigerians would be able to get the answer for themselves. So making ex-Governor David Umahi the Minister of Works in Nigeria is a huge mistake because he cannot deliver. In Nigeria, there are lots of great men and women who would have handled such a position nicely, but because of political party affiliation, perhaps that could be the reason such a sensitive position was given to ex-Governor David Umahi, who cannot perform his duty properly as expected, which is so bad. Most northern governors in Nigeria, both past and present, need a leader to let them know that there are consequences if they fail to do their jobs properly. The cries of Nigerians increased since President Bola Tinubu took over power as President of Nigeria. But one interesting thing we noticed is that the untouchables, especially those from the northern part of Nigeria, are crying the most because no leader had been able to push them so hard like President Bola Tinubu and his government are doing, which, to some extent, looks so good. Now hear our point on this issue. Northern governors in Nigeria believe that whoever that is the president of Nigeria shall always dance to their tune because in their minds, they assume that they own Nigeria and are more Nigerian than the other Nigerians from other regions of the country. If you look closely at the poverty rate in Nigeria, it is mostly from the northern part of the country because their leaders are not doing their jobs properly to pull their people out of poverty. Billions of naira are paid to their states as allocations on a monthly basis, just like their colleagues in the southern part of Nigeria, but if you check the rate of development, the south has it more. So we ask, what are northern governors using their monthly allocations for? There are so many out-of-school children in the northern part of Nigeria when compared to the south, that is, if there are any in the southern part of the country. Recently, it was alleged that the Northern Governors Forum was complaining of severe economic hardship in the north more than the south, which is understandable. Now hear how you can get out of such a situation. First, build and encourage the youths and others in the north to go back to school because education is very important. There are huge portions of empty land in the northern part of Nigeria based on our findings, which should be used for agriculture. Also fish out those bad eggs in your midst who are sponsoring banditry and have them punished, so that those who are willing to farm can get a safe landing as they undertake the business of agriculture. Do a few of the things we mentioned here and see how progress is going to be achieved in the northern part of Nigeria. We also heard that the northern governors have rejected President Bola Tinubu's tax reform agenda. We may not fully know their reasons for rejecting such policy, but we believe that it has to do with a situation where what should be given to each state in Nigeria would depend on what each state brings to the table. If it is so, then it is the best policy ever coming from President Bola Tinubu's government. Meaning that we stand with President Bola Tinubu on this one. Such policy would encourage governors to start looking inward and stop waiting until monthly allocation is paid to their various states, which most governors would, in the end, divert to their private use. We believe that the proceeds of what you forbid in your state should not be shared with you and so on. However, we would use this opportunity to plead with President Bola Tinubu's government to look into his tax policy and see if there are areas where tax cuts can be made to ease the sufferings of the people of Nigeria because the cost of every item in the market across Nigeria has gone up so drastically, which is affecting everyone in the country. Zimbabwean police no longer allowed to use mobile phones while working. Zimbabwe's government has introduced a ban on police officers using mobile phones during their shifts. A recent memo instructs officers to hand over their phones to supervisors when they arrive at work and only to use them during breaks. Although the memo doesn't specify the reasons for the ban, many believe it's part of a larger effort to reduce corruption within the police force. This move comes shortly after 2 traffic officers in Harare were arrested for taking bribes, as shown in a widely shared social media video. The police spokesperson described these officers as bad apples, and emphasized the need for reform in the force. The new policy aims to strengthen earlier guidelines that were largely ignored, insisting that no officer should carry a phone while on duty. Station commanders have been directed to enforce this ban strictly, and there will be consequences for those who don't comply. The police force in Zimbabwe is often viewed as one of the most corrupt, largely due to low salaries and poor working conditions. South African retailer Pick n Pay pulls out of Nigeria's market. Pick n Pay, a prominent South African grocery retailer, is exiting Nigeria. The company will sell its 51% stake in its Nigerian joint venture as part of a broader restructuring strategy. Pick n Pay entered Nigeria just 4 years ago, despite other retail giants planning to leave. However, the country's harsh business climate has taken its toll and Nigeria's consumer goods companies are facing soaring inflation. 19% peak, currency depreciation over 100% in 1 year and rising of operational costs. Pick n Pay's exit follows ShopRite's closure of its Abuja and Kano stores, Jumia's shutdown of its food delivery arm, Diageo's sale of its Guinness Nigeria stake, and multinationals like GSK, Procter & Gamble, and Kimberly-Clark exiting Nigeria. Nigeria's retail sector struggles with profitability due to high inflation, foreign exchange constraints, energy costs and dwindling consumer purchasing power. The exit of international firms raises concerns about Nigeria's business climate and its ability to attract foreign investment. If you want more in-depth analysis on politics and good governance, subscribe to Viewers Corner News and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest videos. Thank you for listening.